Hello, I'm Irene from Ausha, a branded podcast expert. In this video, I'll introduce you to the PSO Control Panel, which is a really powerful tool designed to help you understand and enhance your podcast visibility, both on Apple Podcasts and Spotify search results. Let's dive in using an example podcast. We'll take Tech & Co Media, which is a podcast that, as its name suggests, covers the latest innovations in tech. Once you've identified the keywords you want your podcast to rank for on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, you can either add them manually or use our AI assistant, which suggests keywords based on your metadata. You'll then enter the keyword tracking tab. Here, you'll discover your podcast's ranking for each of the keywords you've selected. Specifically in this table, you can view the keywords you're tracking, along with your current ranking on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, but also changes in rankings from the previous week to today. You can also see search volume, showing listener interest in these keywords, and difficulty score, which indicates the competition level for each keyword. The usage of these keywords in your current metadata, including titles and descriptions. At this stage, we haven't optimized our metadata yet, so we can see that our rankings aren't that great. Let's take the example of the keyword tech news, which is a key term for our podcasts. Looking at the table, we're currently ranked 43rd on Apple Podcasts and 28th on Spotify. There's room for improvement. We can see that this keyword has a high search volume and a moderate difficulty score, so ranking for it should be achievable. However, a closer look reveals that we're barely using this keyword in our episode descriptions and titles. This gives us a real opportunity to boost our podcast visibility on the tech news keyword. To achieve this, we've created a tool within the PSO Control Panel, which is called the PSO Checker, which guides you through optimizing your metadata with a clear list of actionable steps. Let's go back to our Tech & Co Media podcast example. We just published a new episode covering the latest tech industry updates, making tech news my main keyword. By following the recommendations listed on the left, I can optimize the episode's description, title, and tags for maximum visibility. The PSO Checker will then calculate a real-time score that shows how well my episode is optimized for visibility on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Once optimizations are complete, we return to the keyword tracking tab where we can monitor changes in visibility. Here, we can see significant improvement in our rankings and greater visibility for our key terms, especially our primary keyword, tech news. Now that our episode is fully optimized for listening platforms and published everywhere, we can move on to the third tab, the PSO Live Search. This tool allows you to analyze your podcast's ranking against competitors for specific keywords. By using it, we can identify which podcasts hold the top positions for the keywords we're targeting. For instance, with our episode on the latest tech updates, we can enter the keyword tech news in PSO Live Search, select the listening platform we're interested in, and first see our podcast ranking for that keyword, along with its search volume and difficulty score. Below that, we get the top 100 podcasts ranked for this keyword. For each competing podcast, we see detailed information such as the cover art, author name, rating, and number of reviews. All this information helps us keep an eye on our competitors and fine-tune our podcast search strategy. Finally, the Overview tab of the PSO Control Panel gives you a complete view of all the efforts we've made to boost our podcast visibility and organic ranking on listening platforms. In this tab, you'll find key indicators, including the visibility score, which measures our podcast popularity based on its rankings across the keywords we've defined. The visibility history, here we can track how this score has changed over the past 12 weeks. For instance, after optimizing our metadata, there's a clear increase in our podcast visibility. It's noticeably more prominent on Apple Podcasts and Spotify than it was before our optimizations efforts. We can also see keyword position trends. At a glance, we can see how our keywords are performing with counts of those ranked in the top 3, top 20, and top 100 of search results. Then we can also see average position. It's displayed as trend lines, and this shows how our podcast's ranking has progressed on both Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Everything I've just presented, the full suite of tools included in the PSO Control Panel, is available on Ausha now. And an important point, you can use the PSO Control Panel no matter where your podcast is hosted. It's compatible with every hosting platform. So head to ausha.co now, activate the PSO Control Panel, and start boosting your podcast visibility. See you soon!